Today I am talking about why I don't shave and my experience with body hair. If you're new here, I am Farah. I am an artist and mostly I post about my art, but sometimes I also like to talk about things that I'm interested in. So welcome. So I challenged myself kind of last summer to not shave the whole summer, and normally I was already not shaving in the winter, so that's why I'm saying 2 years. I'm still not shaving, so that's going well. And then yesterday I was with a friend in a park and she asked, really out of pure curiosity, like why I don't shave. And I explained it a bit to her, why I don't shave. And I actually thought, oh, maybe I should make a video about this, because I have been thinking of maybe making a YouTube video about this. But I decided to not do that because at first I was a little bit like, oh, it's just what I do. Like, I don't care. I just don't shave. That's it. But it's actually not just that, because of how our society is. It's never just that. Like, there are a lot of things that go on internally, like what happens to you when you do that. And I felt called to share it because sometimes you feel a little bit like unsure. And then like I Google sometimes like other people, their experiences with body hair, because it's nice to relate to other people. And there is so many experiences of women, especially on Reddit, about their story with body hair. And I feel like it's super nice to share because you feel very seen. And that's why I thought maybe if I share my experience with body hair and how it relates to society, then maybe I can also help someone in that way. It's also really hot today. It's like 30 degrees and I am filming this video. I am sticking to my chair. So bear with me if my mind is a little bit scattered. And I have also cut this video up in like a couple chapters. So the first one is my own like experience growing up with body hair. Then a chapter on representation, then history, femininity, and lastly I will also give you my tips if you want to feel confident with your body hair. So I have kind of always, like as a kid already, like struggled with the pressure of shaving. My first time that I became aware of having body hair was when that wasn't normal, that my legs were hairy, was when I was with a friend in the attic of my house and we were just playing, I don't know, with Barbies. I was like 8 years old at this point. And then suddenly she pointed at my legs and she laughed and called me a monkey. So that's the first time. And then another time I was 12 years old in high school and I was wearing like these capri 3/4 leggings that are really in right now as well. And I was wearing those and I remember that my friend was like pointing towards my legs and really laughing about it, like, oh, you don't shave yet, or something like this. And I remember then that was the moment where I started shaving. I went home and I told my mom, and then I was like, I gotta start shaving now. And my mom actually told me not to do it because my mom is kind of a hippie. She telling me like not to do it, and then I actually kept it secret from her for quite a while until eventually I think she just knew, because she's a mom, like moms know. I remember that I was feeling feeling very shameful about it, about the shaving itself as well. And that's why I also didn't tell my parents for a long time. And also about my bikini line, I also felt very pressure to shave, but also pressure to not tell anyone that I was shaving, like as if I didn't have the hair, you know? I remember even like when we had PE classes, I would just shave just for the changing rooms. Yeah, that's just so strange. Like, I just remember that none of the other girls had like as much hair as me. And then I just felt like it was weird that I had that. Because of these experiences, I really started seeing body hair in a negative light. I became very hyper aware. For the decision for me not to shave actually was a very conscious decision. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm not shaving, whatever. It was a very conscious decision. Now we're gonna talk about representation. I feel like I have always been quite feminist. Like, both of my parents are very progressive. Yeah, so I have like been aware of that it's unfair because men don't have the pressure to shave. Like, I feel like I am not even explaining like why having to shave is sexist. Like, I'm just assuming that everyone who watches this knows, but Okay, it's sexist, let's say that. I have always felt kind of like this anger towards society in a way, especially when I was younger. At first, I started with not shaving my armpits anymore. I do also think that that became quite quickly quite common. I feel like especially in my bubble, like I'm in a very like queer friendly and feminist bubble, and I feel like most women and feminine presenting people don't shave their armpits. So I do think there is quite some representation on that, and it's commonly accepted to have some armpit hair. I do think you also see it a lot on social media. So it was quite easy for me. Deciding not to shave my armpits was not a big deal at all, as much as my legs and my bikini line. Like, I feel like for me those things have been completely different. So I wanted to talk about mostly representation for my legs. I feel like even though I'm in such a queer space, most people, I barely ever see a woman or a feminine presenting person who has as much hair as me, or for whom it's as visible as it is for me to walk in society. Like, I do see a lot of women who don't shave their legs, but it's most often, or actually, I've never seen someone with my amount of legs in public or in my spaces. I'm not saying there isn't any, but it's not something that I see every day. I do applaud, of course, everybody who is like not deciding not to shave their body hair, and I think that's very brave and courageous in whatever amount it is. But for me, it's just not representation for me, because it is different if your body hair is visible from a far distance, or if it's only visible if you're very up close. So I'm also like obviously not representation for those who have more body hair than me, or in other places like that are even more looked down upon, if that's how you say it, like chest or the back, or for women who don't have other privileges as I do. I will talk on that also a little bit later. So yeah, I kind of decided to be the representation that I needed for myself. So it was definitely a choice of courage in that sense. And I also do think that, for example, like I was talking about, like having body hair on your chest or your stomach, I don't have that, but as much as like society would, I do have enough, like, how do I say that? Like society would deem me appropriate, let's say that. But I feel like I was talking with a friend also some days ago, and he was like, yeah, I just don't think women have chest hair. And I was like, actually, a lot of women do have chest hair, but or I think they do, or like in other places that men also have hair. Just, it's obviously not as common, but I do think it does exist because women just don't feel safe to show it, and therefore we don't see it, and we think that it doesn't exist just with leg hair as much. Like, a lot of hair is immediately seen as, whoa, maybe you have endometriosis or a hormone imbalance, when that's just as much doesn't need to be the case. Like, it could be, but a lot of women actually do have a lot of hair. It's just not shown a lot, so we think it doesn't exist. And I wanted to give a quick shout out, for example, a woman with a lot of beautiful body hair is Queen Easy. I love her. I'll put her also in the description below. She shows a lot of representation for women who have body hair in other places. So I wanted to say that. So even if it doesn't exist and therefore it can shock people, in essence, it's just you showing up as your whole complete self. And so there shouldn't be anything wrong with that, honestly. Okay, now I want to talk about the history. This is not mostly about that, but it is what also made me want to stop shaving. I remember this post from Alok. I will also put that in the description below. That really taught me a lot about the history of the pressure on women to shave. Like, I learned from them that during colonialism, the colonists were looking for a way to justify their harm towards women of color. And one of the ways they decided for was that they wanted white women to shave. So the difference between white women and women of color would become bigger. And that is still the root of our society. And it's still built on colonialism. It is still persisting. And it also has created like this view of what a woman is supposed to look like or be. And it is a white woman, but a very unattainable white woman. Like, I am white and it's not attainable for me at all. So it's yeah, it's like an unattainable image that puts a lot of pressure on women. And of course also like all the lobbying of the razor industry that happened a lot last century, and all those things combined have made it now into this normal thing to shave for women, especially also the last couple of years. It's really become this automatic thing for women to shave. Like, that's just what we do. And if you don't do it, then it is immediately noticed as something that is different. I'm an artist, so I do think a lot about like our reality and how we can maybe move to another way of how our society could be. And that's also like in my dream reality society that we live in, women won't have the pressure, or feminine presenting people won't have the pressure to exist in a certain way. And if you think about it, our society really isn't that developed if women don't even have the option to exist just as they are. Like, that is very backwards to me. Like, half of the population just cannot be themselves. Yeah, obviously a lot more people can also not be themselves. So yeah, our society is very, yeah, there are a lot of things in my opinion that we need to change. This made me decide that I wanted to be the change in the world that I wish to see. And one of the ways that I am trying to show up in that sense is with showing people what my authentic body looks like, and that is with body hair. And it is a little bit corny, but yeah, it's true. And by doing so, even if sometimes I was anxious as fuck, I still kind of showed myself that it's safe. Not to say that it was always safe. Like, I have had some backlash, which is a chapter later on in this video. But by going out into the world, I really, with my body hair, really showed to myself that I can be respected and loved and still be held within community with body hair. Like, the big fear of, oh my god, I'm going out with body hair, has kind of disappeared in most ways, and my self-image has changed a lot. I also wanted to say, like I said earlier, even though it wasn't always safe, most of the time it was for me. I'm still accepted by society and seen as feminine, mostly because I'm protected by my whiteness and also other privileges, like having pretty privilege and being thin and able-bodied has still made me protected in a sense that I'm not completely ostracized. And that is also like why it's easier for me than it would be for someone who doesn't have these privileges. And yeah, I think it's important to be aware of that within your own activism. Okay, we have arrived to chapter femininity. So I have learned really that shaving is a form of performing femininity. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Most people are constantly doing things that confirm our gender, and shaving is just one of those. I really wanted to step into my own idea of femininity and not feeling like society decides what my femininity looks like, but more I am feminine regardless of whether or not I shave. Yeah, it gives you more freedom, and it makes you also question what does femininity mean for you. And I think that that is something that's very valuable. And I also think like maybe if I had a little bit less hair, or if I was blonde, that then maybe I wouldn't even feel all these questions pressure so much on me. Not saying that if you are blonde that you don't feel that at all, but I think maybe then it would have been easier for me to conform to society's expectations of femininity, but it's just simply not possible for me to conform. My hair is really thick and coarse, and if I am going to shave every 2 days, because it also grows fast, it will be a battlefield, and it will also not look cute and feminine. So I've tried. And so yeah, conforming really just isn't even an option, honestly. Even though I could wax, I have waxed before, but doing it myself is just really expensive. Letting someone else do it really feels way better, but it is also expensive in the Netherlands, so that's also not really an option for me, honestly. And then there's also the question, I'm throwing this in a little bit randomly, but like, why do men or society want women to look like children? Like, that just grosses me out as well. Not diving deeper into that, porn industry, obviously. My intention with these 2 years of not shaving and possibly a little longer is I want to feel cute and sexy and comfortable in my body in whatever way it looks like, in whatever space I'm in. So no matter what my body is looking like in the moment, I want to be able to like not feel like I have to do something in or like shave in order to be loved and respected. And my biggest goal with not shaving is to be able to hold space for myself, that even if I'm in a situation where I feel uncomfortable having a hairy legs or where someone maybe makes me feel uncomfortable, I am still able to know that however I am is good and that there's nothing wrong with me for the way I look. And that's like why I don't shave. So I practice that. But that's not to say that I will never shave again in my life. I probably have to shave this month because I'm going to Mexico for a whole month. And I don't want to attract like more attention to myself than is needed, for my safety. So it's not to say that shaving is bad at all. I also came to realize that even though people think or look at me and like think differently than I am, it doesn't mean that therefore it's bad, because it's good that we're all different, and it's a beautiful thing that I have hair and someone else doesn't. But it will also mean that someone might not understand me for not shaving, but that is okay. Like I really started to realize that like it is okay for me if people don't understand me, and I think that's a very valuable lesson that I have learned by not shaving. There's one other thing relating to femininity that I do still struggle with, and that is that when I'm going out with unshaven legs, I feel kind of the need to perform femininity in other ways. Like I will make sure that my makeup looks really good, or that I kind of look a little bit artsy. And I kind of want to get to the point where I also feel comfortable just wearing, whatever, so that it really doesn't make a difference to me if I've shaven or not. I'm getting there slowly, I guess. And now we have arrived to society's response. Yay, favorite part. Society's response. So I'm also going to talk about backlash, because that will happen, at least where I live in Amsterdam. Yeah, it's really actually sad when it happens, because you're living like in your own plane of reality and you're just like, oh, I can go however I want, and then suddenly someone will say something. But I've actually only have one instance that was really bad. It's really like bullying, so trigger warning. I was in a metro and I was actually looking really cute. I was wearing like strappy heels and a cute dress that was short. I was just minding my own business, looking out of the window. Then this group of like 4 teenage boys, I think like 16, maybe even younger, like 15, like very young. And it's so weird to be bullied by 15-year-old children, because it's like I'm almost 25 and it's like I'm a whole decade older than you. Like, what is going on? Like the audacity, like lately with teenagers. Anyway, they came in and really started like screaming about my body hair. And this one boy, he was really like, oh, do you not have money to buy a razor? Should I buy a razor for you? Like really like bullying, like true bullying. And then I said that he had hair himself. So like they were saying like, ew, it's so dirty, ew. And I was like, you have hair. And then he was like, yeah, but you are a woman. And I should have said like, yes, and you are a child. But I just said back that it was sexist. But every time that I try to say something and like stand up for myself, they just started screaming ew, which is so childlike. So yeah, at some point I just moved seats. But honestly, this was I was like really not a nice experience, obviously. Like I was feeling very violated by it. And I also felt very sad that the men who were sitting in the same cabin as me, that they weren't like standing up for me. So if you're a guy watching this, I really I would have expected someone to honestly stand up for me, because it was like blatant sexism, and that just shouldn't be like allowed in a space, even if you feel like shaving is ugly or gross or whatever, still I would expect you to stand up for bullying. So yeah, that I was really taken aback by that. And I will also say that now every time that I go into a metro, I also kind of police where I sit. Like I make sure that I don't sit close to teenage boys, and that is actually really sad, and I do want to get to a point where I don't give a shit at all. These instances, I also shouldn't have to experience those, but they do happen. Other instances within these 2 years have been like just people who are staring at my legs, and that does happen every day. So if you take the metro and you're having hairy legs like me, it happens on the way going there and on the way back. It just does. There hasn't been one metro where it hasn't happened. Let's say that. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, so why am I making a shaving movement? And there are two ways of people staring, and one is like more in a violent way. I've had this happen a couple times, so this is not what happens every day, but where someone, most of the times actually women, who stare at my legs and then in a very like grossed out way, and then they stare in my eyes, and then they stare back at my legs, and then again in my eyes, like really like showing me that they've seen it. And it's so weird to me, honestly. What I do is if I'm feeling up for it, I'll just smile. And if I am not feeling it, I just ignore and I look away. Like, it doesn't faze me so much, honestly. Sometimes I think it's just because they themselves don't feel free enough to not shave. So it's really just you're showing them what they're not allowing themselves to do. And that's why they probably feel triggered and feel the need to make you feel small. So yeah, it's actually really sad if you think about it. And so that's how I try to think about it, and that really helps me. But what also happens, and that does happen like every day, is that people will just look like and have a weird, it's kind of funny actually, they have a really weird expression on their face, like, what is that? And I realized that that is just because they have never seen it, or they like yeah, probably never. And so it really like crashes their belief system, or it challenges how they view women. So I've come to realize, and it's given me actually a lot of confidence, that that is a really good thing, that me, just my presence in my authentic self, being there, is challenging their world view and is actually contributing to normalizing body hair. And so I think I kind of don't mind it when people are just looking and they have a weird expression on their face, but it's not to actually harm me. Like, they're not like, you know, violently looking at me. It's just more like, whoa, body hair, like this. And I think that's okay. Like, yeah, that will happen. You will get used to that. One other thing I wanted to talk about is anxiety, because now, like I've said about these teenage boys and people staring at me in a violent way, I am kind of scared that that happens when I get into metro. And I do sometimes, not all the time, but feel kind of hyper aware that my body hair is out when I'm in a space where people don't have body hair, or women don't have body hair. Yeah, that does make me feel very self-conscious when I walk into the metro, because you kind of also want to have your mind just to think about other things. Like, you don't want to continuously think about your body hair and, oh, what are they thinking about my body hair? But you don't actually know what people are thinking about it. And that's what I try to tell myself. Like, maybe they're admiring your courage. You don't know. And this is getting better. So I think just the more you practice it, the more it will go away. But it's something, because it's so deeply ingrained within yourself that it's shameful to have body hair. It's a long journey, at least it's been for me. And now society's positive responses, because those happen as well. That I see a woman looking at me, at my hair, at my legs, and then they smile to me or just to themselves. And that is really nice when that happens. Then you feel so much like you've shown them more freedom, and that's really nice. In those ways, I kind of feel sometimes also like body hair right now is part of my identity in a way. I think also that's maybe what you should try and make it at first. Like, I have body hair and I'm proud of it, because yeah, you are challenging the way the world is becoming, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Okay, we have arrived on the tips. So this is all that I've learned in these last 2 years on how to feel comfortable and confident in my body hair. First of all, if you want to get comfortable with your body hair, I would really recommend you to do a summer where you wear short clothing without shaving at all. Like, also your bikini line, I just trim it a little bit. I don't wear super short bikini, like tiny bikinis, but it is okay to have some hair there also. Like in the 70s they had hair there. Another tip that I have is to really get comfortable with having body hair at home. Like, wear short things at home and look at your hair. And if you notice like you have negative thoughts about your hair, just start becoming neutral about it. Like, yeah, this is just what my body looks like, and that is okay. And maybe at some point you can start bring some more positive affirmations to your body hair. Like, maybe you stroke. Sometimes I do, like, I stroke my leg hair and I say like, or I think like, oh, it's so beautiful, even if I don't really believe it. Yeah, I'm pretty neutral about it, I would say, but I think it's good to kind of like give your hair kind of that love that it doesn't really get so often. Another tip, tip 3. If you go if you go out and you feel with the body hair and you feel like, oh, you're getting anxious and whatever, I really try to affirm to myself I am beautiful with or without body hair. Because sometimes I can suddenly feel like I'm undesirable with hair, which is what society wants women to feel like. But I try to tell myself that I am still very beautiful. But I guess you kind of have to have already that self-image of your own beauty for that. One tip that I was thinking about this yesterday. So I was we have this swimming place in Amsterdam here, and I didn't have anything shaved. I also didn't really trim, so I was honestly, pubes were flying, let's say that. And also my body hair and my armpit hair, everything was long and whatever. And I just really became, because it was so busy, very like self-conscious of that I was literally the only feminine presenting person there who had hair on their legs or around their bikini line, and it made me feel like self-conscious for a second. But then I reminded myself like, hey, just because I am looking different now than other people, and I'm maybe the only one here who I've seen, doesn't mean that therefore I am wrong. Like, you really gotta understand that within yourself you can be different and still be accepted and okay. Or you don't even need to be accepted but by yourself. Like, you are still worthy of being that in that space, even though you're different than most people there. And thinking that really calmed my nervous system, and I was just like, yeah, you know what, I am different and that's fine. You are all different to me. Another tip that really helps me is looking at pictures from the 70s. Like I said, then it was very hippie culture, and looking on Pinterest, just typing in bikini hairline. There aren't that many pictures, honestly, but a couple. And you will find some pictures of pretty hairy women just living their life, not even like hair influencers like now who are making it, for whom it's also a conscious decision, but more just like women living their life having hair. Like, that is really nice to see. So I would recommend you have to dig a little bit deep, but you will find it. And if you are online dating, I have a tip for that as well. I would really put up a picture of yourself with body hair, just so you weed out kind of the guys who have a preference for shaven women. And my last tip is to follow body hair activists on Instagram, and also surround yourself with people who normalize it, because when you see it a lot yourself, your mind will also normalize it for you. And so yeah, that's good. I will put some of my favorite body hair activists in the description below, so you can look at those. So we've come to the end. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched it all, really hope that I made you feel more comfortable with your body hair, or maybe inspired to start wearing your hair out. I think if we don't talk about it, people just don't know about it so much. And that's also why I made this video. And I also, of course, want to say that this is just my singular experience, so don't stop here with listening about women's experiences, because there are a lot of different experiences of body hair. But I hope I helped someone in some way. Let me know if I did, and if you like this video, and I hope you have a nice day. Bye. I'm going to swim, so it's so hot. I am literally sticking. Bye.